Good morning. It's my pleasure to welcome Anthony Tindal, founder and managing director of Tindal Wines, as part of Crowe's Business Insights webinar series. We are very interested in getting personal experiences of how clients have been managing the challenges of COVID-19 and dealing with the various components of that. So Anthony, I would like to thank you very much for agreeing to take part in this webinar this morning. And I'd like to start, if you don't mind, by asking you to tell us a little bit about your background and the background to the business.
Oh, good morning, Sean. Thank you very much for asking me along. I was born and reared in Donegal and on a farm. My father was a fruit farmer. I was educated in the UK, and I worked in the UK in the food business for some years. I came back to Ireland, was employed by Finlaters as a sales agent, where I wasn't paid. I was only paid when I sold for what I sold. Finlaters sold the company in the early 2000s. My nephew, Matthew Tindal, persuaded me to set up Tindal Wine Merchants, which we set up in 2004. It's as a family business with, at the time, Matthew, myself, and a few family members as shareholders. The aim of Tindal Wine Merchants was to service the on-trade, which is hotels, restaurants, and to develop that business.
So everything was going very well, and then for all of us, the middle of March came earlier this year, and the world has changed beyond recognition over the last number of months. So from your perspective, I mean, when did you first feel that impact, and what were the initial challenges that you faced, and how has that, how have those challenges changed, or how have those challenges been met over the number of months since the middle of March?
We saw this developing we had our portfolio tasting, which is a very successful event in February, in the middle of early February, in the Market Hotel. And this is an annual event which we have. And I can honestly say that it's the biggest wine tasting event in Ireland. In an average tasting in Ireland, you get 50 people, 20 to 50 people. At our tasting last year, we had in excess of 500 people. And that is phenomenal. We had it in two phases. We had Tindal for the wholesale, and then in the evening we had Searsons for the retail. At that time, we were worried about COVID. Every year, I do a global tour to the Southern Hemisphere, and I leave at the end of February. And I travel to sometimes to California, and then I go Argentina, Chile, New Zealand, Australia, South Africa. And I do that at their harvest time. Because I want to know firsthand, which is all part of our business, exactly what's going on. And I travel. I also do it because we have an own label in Chile called Puna Snipe. We have an own label in Australia, which we haven't made for a couple of years because of problems, climatical problems, global warming, a big problem in our business, and where we were drawing the grapes from, we had a bad harvest, so we just didn't perform. And we have our own label in South Africa, which is Swallow's Tail, which I started out about 14 years ago and has been an enormously popular brand here in Ireland. So I was worried about this because of my global travel, and I asked the question, should I travel globally? And I decided that no, we wouldn't go to Chile, we wouldn't go to South Africa, but I had to go to South Africa because we had a new vintage which we had to do. And you cannot do that on a screen. You cannot fly wines around the world to blend. You have to be there. You have to understand what's happening in the vineyard. You have to understand what the firsthand, not by what the press tells you or anything else. You have to really, really understand what's going on, you know, what sort of harvests they've had, and you've got to get it from the guys who work in the vineyard. I got back from South Africa I'm trying to remember, it was about the 11th of March. 12th of March, everything started hitting the fan. We were all shut down by the 15th of March. And that was a pretty scary time. At the time of our shutdown, our business was 83% of our business was sales to citizens, and 78 to 79% of that business was on trade, and that's to hotels, restaurants. And we had just stocked up because we just had our portfolio tasting, which cost us a lot of money. We had tremendous following at our portfolio tasting. We had stocked up for what we reckon was going to be our really our best year, and our stock level was about 1.7 million under bond. We were still owed quite a lot of money from our debtors were at that time about actually they were near 2 million, 2 million. And it couldn't have happened at a worse time, because we were launching in the country, because we've traditionally been a very strong business in the country. We were launching our business, our campaign for the country, and bang, we were shut down. And I remember I was in Maura's office, Maura Crofts, our financial controller. I was in her office, and I was totally lost. I didn't know what to say, and I remember she said, "Don't worry, we'll be okay." And I was really touched by that. I just thought, you know, this is because normally I'm out there, I'm gung ho, but I just felt totally helpless. Everything was totally beyond my control. We had, there was nothing I could do. So, but we had to move, and we had to move very quickly. Within 24 hours, I'd been in touch with our team. I had to ring them up, and I had to say, "Listen, lads, we will not survive as a business if this goes on, and we have to make immediate cuts." And I actually told them then that immediately I needed 40% of their salary, and this could go on indefinitely. It certainly could go on till December at the earliest. I wrote to them, and to a man, everybody came back, and not everyone. There's one didn't. Everyone came back and said, "We will do whatever is necessary to, you know, for the survival of Tindal's." And Maura, who's a really tough, takes no prisoners sometimes, but she's not really tough. She's a good woman, and she said to me, I have an email from her, and she said, "I really think we should pay the team till the end of March." And I thought that was a really nice, and I might not have thought of that. So we paid our team up till the end of March, because in a pandemic, like in a crisis like this, you realize who your allies are, and you realize who your strengths are. And that my strengths were obviously my family, who are very involved in the business. My wife Penny, who's been at it from the beginning. My son William, who's been beside me and William is now actually taking time out of the business because he wants to follow up his agricultural career, which is brilliant because he's so into that. And Harriet, Matthew, who's always there, smiling, getting on with it. But then our core team, our logistics guy Frank, and our financial controller Maura, and then our sales director Declan, who is just amazing. So the first thing I had to look at was what purchase orders have we got outstanding. We cancelled everything. Said, listen, sorry lads, finished. That is on ice. We don't know what's going to happen. Cancelled. We didn't postpone. We cancelled them because the temptation would be, oh yeah, we'll take them, we'll get by, and things will open up. That is, you've got to be absolutely ruthlessly tough. We looked at the stock cash flow, absolutely critical. What are we owed? How are we going to collect our money? How do we go about collecting our money when people are in a pandemic situation? How will our suppliers approach us? Well, our suppliers will be compassionate, but they're not going to be that compassionate because they've got to live and they've got to, and exactly the same attitude we have to take with our customers. So we had to be fairly tough, but kind. Support. How could we support our customers? We reckoned that we would take back some stock because that was just looking after ourselves. But we didn't take a lot back because nobody knew how long it would be going on for. We took a holiday in pensions. We took a holiday in leases for the cars. All the sales guys had cars. And we took a holiday in paying the duty for the customs and the VAT and the PRSI, because why do we do that? Because all these were interest free and they weren't costing us money. How are we going to raise money in the middle of a pandemic when we haven't got any sales? We're going to have to look at the off trade. We already have a retail shop in the off trade. How are we going to open business in the off trade? We need a super sales director, and we need a hard-assed bunch of sales guys who are going to put their masks on and go and selling, and that's exactly what they did. So our stock level reduced over that period from 1.7 million down to just below 800,000. Our debtors, we still have problems with our debtors. We have set aside quite a large sum of money on a monthly basis in the event of non-payment. We're confident that will cover us, and that there's not many more problems out there. But we had to reduce our salaries more than 40%. In April, May, we had to go right down, and we were basically paying our team the pandemic wage, plus I think I was upping it by about 200 euros a month because it was needs be. We left our team with their cars because you're looking at somebody who's who's selling, and somebody who has pride, and somebody who, yeah, they'll struggle like hell. But we looked at it that we were going to come out of this, and we had to take the punishment. We cut expenses, we cut everything. We've been working hard in the independent off trade. We threw all our resources into Searsons. We I also told our salesmen that they could supplement their income by selling on commission to their pals, because I said most of your pals are at home, they're feeling depressed and they want something decent to drink. And it's amazing how much wine we sold on directly. I have daily contact with all our suppliers. I have, and the one thing that I have no respect for are people who owe us money, who hide. I have no respect at all. We are within terms with all our suppliers because we have, apart from the revenue, because that's interest free. I mean, take it. Well, it can, lads, you know. But we're not far behind with them either. But we are within terms because we have reduced our stock holding, which means that we will occasionally run out of stock of a key line, or well, we try not to, but it does happen occasionally. But we have trimmed down our business because we have lost 38% to 40% of our turnover this year. So, but we have trimmed down our stock more than that to pay, and we've had to trim our stock more to pay for the people who haven't got the backbone to pick up the phone and say, I can't pay you, but I'll make an effort to pay a little bit. You know, that's a side of business which I'm afraid is a side that I really dislike, because we're a family business. We have individuals who have mortgages, have children, have bills to pay, and they depend on the integrity of our customers. And I take it personally. I personally would do anything to protect our team.
Anthony, how do you feel next year is going to go for the business?
I realized that I've been around a long time and I have a lot of experience. I had business in London, which was in the food business. It was never a great success, but we paid our bills and we left. We came back sort of pretty broke. But you know, we learned ethics, and we also learned how to survive. And when we started our Tindal, we went through the worst recession ever in this country until the pandemic, and we grew in that recession. So you're asking me what's going to happen next year. I'm really, really bullish about the future of our business because of our team and what we've been through together. And we have not made one single redundancy out of all our team. None of us can predict how many businesses are going to survive. I think a lot of restaurants will go and they won't come back. I think a lot of country business will go as it did in the last recession. And I think it's going to be a really, really tough year. I've done my forecast for next year already, which is, you know, because you have to take a stance. And I presented my sales figures to Maura before I even have it from the sales guys, because I know pretty damn well what they're going to come up with, and I'm waiting to see what they do come up with and look at the difference. But we will probably go with our own internal figures because I think they're accurate, and that shows an increase on this year on our reduced year this year of about 15%, and which would still leave me about 25% below 2019. It's going to be a very tough year, but I see opportunities for Tindal, and I'm feeling very bullish about it. How is it going to change? There's a downside for us because we pride ourselves in our hands-on, and selling wine is a hands-on thing, no matter what. And areas where we are selling tools, it's all very well. You can have a wine tasting like this, but you're on your own, and it's very depressing drinking on your own. So we're not going to have our big tastings. We're not going to have. I'm not going to be able. I'm definitely not going to travel next year because and I'm not going to allow anyone to travel because I think it's totally irresponsible. And we have to live with it. So we have lost a cutting edge of our business because our cutting edge was always that we were always hands-on on the market. We'd been to the vineyards, and because when I was in the Southern Hemisphere, Harriet or Declan or one of the team would be in Europe, and then I'd come back, and then we would do Europe as well. And so we'd cover it globally. We won't be doing that. We didn't do that last year. We won't be doing that this year. That's a big disadvantage for us because we are on. That's going to be tough, but we'll live with that because it's the same for everybody. And I do think it'd be grossly irresponsible to travel next year until we have a vaccine that works for everybody. Likewise, our offices. I'm not in my office now because I can work remotely. I find that really difficult because I like the people, the reaction with people. I miss that a lot. I need to see people. I need to, when you're talking to them and when you're doing a deal, when you're negotiating a salary, you need to be looking at them in the eye and say, this is what we can do, and what can you do for me? How can you up your game? Because I'm looking for people to do something they've never done before, which is sell in a mask. To go into a place which are terrified of, they're going to look at them and say, where the hell have you been, sunshine, before you came here? And I don't want to talk to you. You're contagious. So you've got all these pressures, and it's all new, and it's but you've got to get over it because life has to continue, but you have to do it responsibly.
Anthony, with Brexit very much around the corner, what challenges and opportunities do you see arising from it?
Diversification is very, very important, and using people's talents. We have a very bright young man called Frank Donahue in our business, and he's not always customer friendly because he's our stock controller and he manages our logistics. And he basically manages us because he won't let me buy if he doesn't reckon we can afford it. And then you've got Maura behind him who says, no, we haven't got the money. Between them, if you get through them, it's like getting through the Iron Curtain as it was. But he is being involved in logistics, transport, imports, exports, and he's a life. His whole career has been in logistics, and he understands customs. He understands imports. He understands. He came up with this idea that we are very, very underqualified in documentation when Brexit hits on January the 1st. He said, I want to set up a business that does customs clearance both for all goods in and out of the UK into Ireland. So he set up a business called Customs Wise, and that is fully subscribed. We cannot take on any more customers. We are going to be flat out. So what is going to happen, and what I have asked our team to do, is there's an area around Dublin that's going to be very vulnerable in January, February. And I've said to our lads, you can supplement your salaries by doing the course, the customs course for Customs Wise, and you will be filling in, you will be doing paperwork in January and February and March, and that will supplement your income. And all of our team who won't be that busy have actually signed up for doing this, and that to me it gives me a very, very positive. It means that they really want to stay with Tindal, they want to keep their job, and they're prepared to diversify. But at the same time, having said that, Customs Wise, as far as I know, is 100% owned by Tindal. But it is Customs Wise will not, you cannot rely on something in the future to save you. I've always had a very strong policy that each company that we have has to stand on its own feet. Yes, we'll get in the mire for a year or so, but we have to have an exit plan for that company. If that company cannot survive on its own 2 feet, then that company is not worth supporting. And that is a rule that I have. And so therefore, anyone, a number of people are sitting, oh, Customs Wise will save Tindal. I said, no, Tindal will save Tindal, and Tindal are doing a very good job of it. And Tindal will be a very strong company. Brexit's going to have an enormous effect on our balance of payments. No matter how bullish we are about the UK pulling out of Europe, it's going to have a dire effect on our trade. I look at every single sale that we've made. We go and analyze sales report every day. I look at every single sale. I look at every single margin, because we can make big mistakes. We can undersell, or we can sell to the wrong person. And in this pandemic, it is a real crisis. And unless we're totally vigilant, we won't survive. Success for me will be talking to you in a year's time, saying that we were able to pay our team a nice little bonus at Christmas in 2020, and we showed a break even for the business, all the businesses, and a small profit in 1 or 2 in 2020, and we got our staff back on full salary. This is what my ambition is by the end of 2021. It's not about profit. I have to say that our shareholders have been very, very long suffering, but support from our shareholders has been absolutely vital. But they'll have their moment. In the meantime, we have to keep our team spirit up, because without a good team and a good spirit, we don't have a business.
I'd like to thank you, Anthony, for a very insightful, very valuable discussion this morning. I think it's very helpful for other business owners out there to hear these personal stories and to get a clear sense of how different businesses and different sectors are managing the challenges of COVID and its impact. So thank you for taking part in this webinar this morning. I'm sure a lot of viewers will be able to take a lot from it. There are a lot of key points there that you very concisely and explained very clearly. So it just leaves for me to say thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Sean.
Take care.